Y'all want to sign too, Grimy? Look at these two dudes, U and Nipsey Hussle. On the block.
Big U's son has been taken out.
It's been pure chaos since the heartbreaking murder of Big U's son, Jabari Henley, on Halloween night. And now things just took a wild twist. Nipsey's close affiliates, who believe Big U had something to do with their homie's death, just dropped some shocking footage of Big U's last moments with his son. And what's in it has everybody talking. This footage didn't just resurface, it ripped open an old wound that never healed. In LA's ruthless street politics, your name is everything, and disrespect gets handled quick and heavy. One piece of old video can spark a whole new wave of smoke like the beef never cooled down. So here's what went down. In late October 2025, an old Instagram Live started spreading fast through the city. A grainy throwback clip showing three legends chilling on a Crenshaw corner, just vibing like brothers back when times were still good.
Yeah. We still out here. Hey, well, you did. Hey, we on tape, man. Y'all don't want to sign too, Grimy. Y'all want to sign too, Grimy. Look at these two dudes, U and Nipsey Hussle. On the block.
The video showed Eugene Big U Henley, the late Nipsey Hussle, and Big U's young son Jabari Baby Wee Henley, all together, smiling, laughing, and representing South LA's future. Back then, they were symbols of unity and hope, never knowing the pain that was waiting down the road. What was supposed to be a touching memory turned into the spark that set off a new wave of anger, street tension, and heartbreak that rocked the whole city. The clip is real, raw, and unfiltered. Barely a minute long, but it captures that genuine hood energy, the kind of moment that feels too real to ever fade. That clip showed a world that existed before the fame, before the indictments, and before the funerals ripped everything apart. You can hear Big U in the background narrating the moment with that heavy OG tone, proud, wise, and full of fatherly energy as he watched his son finding his place in the streets. His voice carried a mix of pride and pain that hits hard once you know what came next.
See the clip when he was live? Okay, but and they said justice for Nip? Wait.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And what did he do? He started laughing.
Justice for Nip.
But to really get why this so-called innocent footage triggered so much hate and why it set off a dangerous ripple through the streets, we gotta rewind and break down who these three real ones were and the powerful movement they were trying to build before everything fell apart. Nipsey Hussle, born Ermias Joseph Asghedom on August 15, 1985, wasn't just another rapper with fame and awards. He was a visionary. He saw beyond the gang-filled corners of Crenshaw, dreaming of real change, a future where black ownership and unity could flip the script on the poverty and violence that had cursed the community for decades. That mindset made him different, made him special. Growing up deep in rolling 60s Crip territory with an Eritrean father and an African-American mother, Nipsey lived with both struggle and pride in his DNA. Those contradictions shaped everything about him, the way he moved, the way he thought, and the legacy he left behind. By 2018, his album Victory Lap hit number 4 on the Billboard 200, pulling in a Grammy nomination and pushing over 53,000 first-week sales.
Homie, they killed Nip too. Let's not forget, homie. They killed Nipsey Hussle. Eric Holder was not a lone actor in that. If you go back and follow the details, Nip and Big U got into it. Big U hit Nip Daddy across the head with a bat. His brother had to come out and shoot the gun.
Proof that his vision wasn't just talk, it was a movement in motion. But Nipsey's real legacy wasn't about chart numbers or record sales. It was about what he built. That Marathon clothing store he fully owned became a symbol of pride and power. That Vector 90 STEM hub he opened gave kids in the hood a space to dream big and level up. And when he dropped $4.5 million to buy up that entire Crenshaw block, it was his way of keeping the money and opportunities right where they belonged, in the black community, not in the hands of outsiders or greedy developers. Then there's Eugene Big U Henley, born around 1967, who walked a different but equally dangerous path through those same LA streets. He was a real rolling 60s veteran, a certified name in the neighborhood. Back in '96, he caught a case for attempted murder and did serious time. When he came home in 2004, he swore he was on a new path, one of redemption, structure, and peace. In 2005, Big U founded the Community Intervention Alliance, stepping up as a street mediator who could calm down long-standing beefs between crews that had been going at it for generations. He was the one people called when things were about to explode, the middleman between chaos and peace. By 2009, when Nipsey was still that independent grinder making his own wave, Big U saw the potential and made it official. A 10-year management deal under his company, Unique Music. That partnership would go on to shape the whole sound and structure of West Coast hip-hop for the next decade. Big U schooled Nipsey on the all-money-in blueprint, self-distribution, ownership, and total control of his art. No major labels calling the shots, no middlemen slicing up profits, just pure independence.
And I want to talk about, Big U. His son was assassinated last night out there in LA. Absolutely nasty work, man. Again, Big U, his son, Baby Huey, or Big Huey, right? He was assassinated last night on Halloween out there in LA.
That mindset became the foundation of Nipsey's empire, the heart of his marathon mentality that lit a fire in a whole generation of hustlers and dreamers. And then there was Jabari, Baby Henley, Big U's own son, a young man caught in the middle of two worlds he never asked to balance. Born March 15th, 1991, Jabari wasn't trying to live up to street legends or fame. He wasn't his dad, and he wasn't his athletic brother Jabari Henley, who was out there playing linebacker for the LA Chargers. Jabari just wanted to find his lane. But in that world, finding peace was never that simple. Jabari was just trying to keep his head down and live right. He worked steady as a warehouse supervisor at a logistics firm in Compton, and sometimes dropped music under the name Baby Wee. By all accounts, he wasn't chasing fame or street credit, he wanted peace. Far from the spotlight that had consumed his father and taken Nipsey's life, Jabari was focused on something way more real: family. Friends said the same thing over and over. Jabari stayed out the mix, never trying to bang or move like a street legend, even though he was born right into that life by blood. He had a 10-year-old daughter he adored and was determined to raise her better, trying hard to break the same generational curses that had already torn through so many families before his. But then that old footage popped back up, and it couldn't have resurfaced at a worse time. LA's street politics were already boiling over, and by March 2025, things hit an all-time high. Big U himself was in deep trouble, hit with a massive federal RICO indictment with 43 counts against him. The feds accused him of running what they described as a mafia-style operation through the Rollin 60 Crips, a shocking contrast to the image of the reformed peacemaker he'd built over the years. The indictment was wild. It claimed everything from a conspiracy tied to a 2021 murder-for-hire plot involving rapper Rayshawn Rocky Williams over a diss track to extortion from more than 50 marijuana dispensaries disguised as protection fees. They even accused him of human trafficking linked to forced labor through his music label.
Big U's son has been taken out. If you don't know who Big U is, just a simple Google search would suffice. Big U allegedly had something to do with the killing of Nipsey Hussle, even though that's never been proven.
And over $1.2 million in bank fraud using COVID relief loans. It was a lot. Straight up system finessing on paper, if the charges were true. Now Big U was locked down tight, held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown LA, staring down a possible life sentence. His trial was set for May 2026, and things got even worse when his attorney backed out in September 2025, citing conflicts of interest. That left Big U all alone, forced to represent himself against the full weight of the federal government coming straight for him. But even with all those RICO charges hanging over him, Big U's biggest battle wasn't in a courtroom. It was out in the streets and online. Since Nipsey's tragic death on March 31st, 2019, rumors and wild conspiracy theories had been chasing Big U like a shadow that just wouldn't fade. No matter how many facts came out or how often the truth got cleared, people still whispered his name when talking about Nipsey's murder. Even though Eric Holder Jr. was convicted in February 2022 and sentenced to 60 years to life, with the court making it plain that Nipsey's death was about personal beef and accusations of snitching, not some secret plot from Big U. The streets didn't care. Facts don't always win when the story sounds more dramatic, and the narrative that Big U had betrayed Nipsey stuck deep in certain corners of the internet and LA's underground, where people were desperate to find someone to blame. Then came the bombshell from Loose Cannon, a known Rollin 60s affiliate and music exec, who in 2024 dropped claims that set the city on fire.
They say he was going to a smoke shop. I don't know why he was going to a smoke shop over there, but you know what I mean? That kind of sealed the deal for him, you know what I mean? Condolences to him condolences to the family. You know, Big U, he going through his thing, and he fighting a whole different battle. So I know he in there mourning right now, and it's just no parent wants to hear that their child, anything happened to their child. I don't care what, even if the child was doing bad shit or not. You know what I'm saying?
He said Big U called him just 30 minutes before Nipsey was killed, making some cryptic comments about handling the MIU's noise. Cannon admitted he brushed it off at the time, thinking Big U was just talking tough, but later claimed he realized it might have been something more sinister. The thing is, none of that was ever backed by proof. No phone records, no court mentions, no solid evidence at all. Yet those words spread like wildfire and turned into gospel for people who already believe Big U had a hand in the setup. Once the streets lock onto a story, it's nearly impossible to undo, and this one painted Big U as the ultimate betrayer. To make things worse, new footage started circulating, showing Big U's reaction when someone brought up Nipsey's name during an Instagram live. It looked like a casual convo with his homies. But when one voice in the background mentioned Nip, Big U's response instantly caught everyone's attention. The clip added more fuel to the already burning fire, and from that moment, the internet went wild. During that Instagram live, someone in the background could be heard saying, "Justice for Nip," and Big U's reaction changed everything. His response, that quick laugh caught on camera, would haunt him for years, both in the streets and across social media. That single moment became a weapon used against him. Whether that laugh was nervous, awkward, or just taken completely out of context, people didn't care. They saw what they wanted to see. To his critics and enemies, that laugh was proof. Proof that Big U knew more than he was saying. Proof that he was mocking Nipsey's death instead of mourning it. They said he was disrespecting the very man he once called a brother, even a son. And the more Big U tried to clear his name, the worse it got. Every denial made people look at him with more suspicion, like he was trying too hard to hide something. In the court of public opinion, perception is reality, and Big U was losing that battle fast. Then came another hit to his reputation. Whack 100, Nipsey's former manager and one of his loudest ops, went on No Jumper in February 2024 and dropped some wild accusations. He claimed Big U had cooperated with federal agents during a 2018 RICO investigation, and that the info he allegedly shared led to Nipsey being labeled a snitch. It was a bold claim, especially coming from someone who once sat close to Nipsey's inner circle, someone who said he knew what the public didn't. But it didn't stop there. Charleston White jumped into the mix and threw even more gas on the conspiracy fire. He claimed there were real physical run-ins between Big U and Nipsey's family over money and control. According to him, the whole tragedy wasn't even about street politics or snitching. It was about power and extortion. These allegations had no solid proof, but that didn't matter because by then, the rumors had already taken on a life of their own. So when that old Instagram live of Big U, Nipsey, and Jabari resurfaced in late October 2025, it didn't just go viral. It shook the whole city. That clip hit every raw nerve in the hood at once. Grief, loyalty, betrayal, and revenge, all boiling under the surface. But what no one could have seen coming was how fast everything would spiral. Within just 72 hours, one of those three men in the video would be gone.
You know what I mean? This is f***ed up. I'm gonna be honest, bro, because even though, you know what I mean, his son claimed Crip, you know what I'm saying? That's what you seen him with Nip in the little reel, and you know, that's what he claimed. I don't think he was like probably actively out here shit to people. You know what I'm saying? He was kind of born into it. You know what I mean? Because it's like your dad is Big U.
His body laid out in the morgue, while the internet exploded with reactions that blurred the line between mourning and celebration. Some called it street justice. Others said it was straight tragedy. Halloween night turned into a nightmare. The hit went down at exactly 11:11 p.m. on October 31st, 2025, a time that now feels cursed. The location? South Figueroa and West 69th Street, deep in the heart of South Central Los Angeles, an area that never really sleeps. Vermont's lost neighborhood where every corner's got a story and every move can be your last. Jabari Henley had pulled up to a local smoke shop that night, a little spot the locals knew as Fig and 69 Smoke Spot. It wasn't fancy, just one of those regular hood stores that keep the community running, selling swishers, energy drinks, chips, and lotto tickets to folks who'd been grinding on those same blocks for decades. It was the kind of place where people came to breathe for a minute, to feel normal, even when the streets were heavy. The shop sat right inside what's long been known as Rollin' 60 Crip territory, though police reports said the store itself had no gang ties at all. According to LAPD's gang impact team, it was just a small business trying to stay afloat.
If you know what's going on, right? If you in LA, or if you be in LA, or if you know what's going on in LA right now, it's some shit going on. Just look at all the shootings. Look at the people that was involved in the shootings or the alleged groups and all these fucking shootings that's been going on this year, probably this summer, starting this summer. It's been turned up, bro. And it's kind of like, even though there's a lot of peace pushing going on, it's a lot of coexisting with different gangs and sets and some shits have generational history, bro. So even if be docile a little bit, all it takes for is something crazy to happen or somebody else to get hit, and then they're gonna tit for tat.
Trying to survive in a part of the city where survival itself is a daily fight. In that world, one wrong look, one wrong word, or one old video can flip everything upside down. And that night, it did. Eyewitnesses from that Halloween night, 2 civilians who had just stepped out of the shop and a food truck vendor serving late-night eats, all told the same chilling story. Their accounts lined up perfectly, painting a scene that felt like something out of a movie, only this was real life and deadly. They said a dark-colored sedan, maybe a late-model Toyota Camry or Honda Accord, rolled up slow and smooth to the curb. Not wild, not reckless, just intentional, like whoever was inside knew exactly what they came to do. Jabari walked up from the sidewalk and leaned toward the passenger side window, talking for maybe 10 or 15 seconds. Witnesses said it looked casual, like a quick street convo. Nothing out of the ordinary in LA, where deals, greetings, and favors get exchanged on every block all day long. But then everything flipped in an instant. The quiet turned to chaos. Without warning, the sound of gunfire tore through the night, a burst so loud it shook the whole block. Shell casings later showed it came from a 9mm or possibly a .40 caliber semi-automatic. Clean, controlled, and deadly. At least 7 shots rang out, echoing off buildings and cutting through the Halloween air. Jabari took 4 of them with surgical precision. 2 in the chest and stomach, 1 hitting his arm, and another tearing into his thigh. He stumbled, clutching his side before collapsing near the shop's entrance. Blood began spreading fast beneath him, mixing with the bright candy wrappers and fallen leaves scattered across the pavement. People screamed, ducked behind cars, and scrambled for cover. The kind of fear that hits when you realize death just came and went in a matter of seconds. The streets went silent again, but the damage was done. Another young life gone in the middle of a night that was supposed to be harmless fun. The black sedan peeled off fast, turning north on Figueroa before hanging a hard right onto 68th. Gone within seconds, disappearing into the dark maze of South LA streets. No one caught a plate number, no one saw faces, just tinted windows and taillights fading into the night. By the time anyone could process what happened, it was already too late. First responders from LA Fire Department Station 46 arrived at 11:14 p.m., finding Jabari lying motionless near the shop entrance, barely hanging on. He was gasping those final shallow breaths, the kind that come when the body's fighting hard. But the injuries are just too much. It's that heartbreaking moment between life and death when hope and reality collide. Paramedics jumped straight into action, no hesitation. They dropped to their knees, right there on the blood-soaked pavement, performing CPR with sharp precision. Chest compressions steady and strong. Their gloves slick with blood as they fought to keep him alive. They pumped 2 doses of epinephrine through an IV, desperate to spark something, anything that could bring him back from the edge. But the damage was too deep, the blood loss too heavy, and the wounds too fatal. The scene was quiet except for the mechanical rhythm of CPR, until finally, at 11:28 p.m., they had to make that call no medic ever wants to make. With no pulse, no response, and no sign of life, they pronounced him gone. Jabari "Baby Wee" Henley was officially declared dead at the scene. His body was left in the care of LAPD homicide detectives and the county coroner, while his spirit joined the long list of young black men whose lives were taken too soon, never getting the chance to fulfill their potential. Later, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office would conduct the official autopsy, case number 2025-04512, confirming what everyone on that block already knew in their hearts that night. The streets had claimed another one. The coroner's report confirmed it all. Death by multiple gunshot wounds with massive blood loss caused by a torn left pulmonary artery. Jabari bled out fast, way too fast for anyone to save him. The report also revealed something that hit even harder. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing in his system. This wasn't about being reckless or caught slipping. This was cold, deliberate, and personal. Jabari didn't die because of bad choices. He died because of his last name. In a city where legacy can be both a badge of honor and a death sentence, being Henley came with a target on his back. His death was officially ruled a homicide, and the shooters, whoever they were, vanished back into the streets, ghosts in the night. Meanwhile, miles away from the chaos, locked inside the Metropolitan Detention Center, Big U was still fighting for his life in court. Facing those heavy federal RICO charges, that could bury him forever. He was asleep when the world as he knew it fell apart. It was around 1:30 a.m. on November 1st when the news reached him through a contraband cell phone smuggled into the jail by his co-defendant and old associate, Loose Cannon. Cannon had gotten the call from a family contact on the outside, the kind of call no father should ever get. The words alone were enough to crush a man built from concrete. Later, in exclusive interviews with TMZ and Hot New Hip Hop, recorded secretly from inside the detention center, Cannon described Big U's reaction, and it was something he said he'd never forget. His voice dropped low, heavy with emotion as he told reporters what he witnessed that night. Big U just froze, Cannon said, pausing like he could still see it in his mind. You could hear the respect and sorrow in his tone. Even a man who'd seen it all knew this moment broke something deep inside Big U. At first, Big U didn't say a word, just sat there frozen, tears streaming down his face, fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Then, barely above a whisper, he said, "Not my boy, not like this." Those few words carried more pain than 1,000 screams. Cannon said he'd never seen Big U like that. Broken, silent, stripped of the power and pride that had always defined him. They were both crushed, two men who'd faced every kind of street chaos imaginable, now hit with a loss that no kind of toughness could fix. Cannon told reporters, "We'll work through this together, even from in here. God makes no mistakes. He's testing us, but we'll rise." But even he admitted, those words sounded hollow when faced with the cold truth. A father trapped behind bars, powerless to protect his child, mourning in silence while the world outside kept moving. Just picture that for a second. Really feel it. You're sitting in a federal cell, already fighting for your freedom, knowing the system's trying to bury you alive. And then, out of nowhere, you get the worst news a parent can hear. Your 34-year-old son, the one who was trying to live right, stay off the radar, raise his little girl, and work an honest job, is gone, murdered on the same streets you once ruled. And you can't do a thing about it. You can't rush to the scene, can't demand answers, can't hold your family as they break down in tears. You can't make calls to the streets or move pieces to protect the rest of your people. You're trapped, forced to face the unthinkable through steel bars and concrete walls. That's the kind of pain no father should ever carry. In that moment, Big U wasn't the OG, the boss, or the name whispered in street legends. He was just a broken man, robbed of his blood, his legacy, and his peace, staring at four cold walls that couldn't begin to contain the weight of what he'd lost. Imagine that kind of pain, locked in a cell, helpless, while your son lies cold in a morgue with 4 bullet wounds in his body, and the whole city can't stop talking about it. That was the nightmare Big U woke up to on November 1st, 2025, a reality no father should ever face. He couldn't speak out, couldn't defend his name, couldn't even grieve properly. Because of strict jail rules and federal gag orders tied to his ongoing RICO case, Big U was banned from giving any public statement or media response. The silence was heavy, but those close to him said everything without words. Sources close to the Henley family told Rolling Out that on November 1st, Big U spent the entire day in deep reflection. He reportedly asked the chaplain for specific Bible passages to read, clinging to faith as his only escape. He even requested a family visit, but that had to be pushed to November 3rd due to the detention center's cold, unbending protocols, the kind that don't pause for heartbreak, no matter who you are. Meanwhile, the hunt for Jabari's killers kicked off fast and focused. LAPD's homicide detectives were moving carefully, following every lead with precision. But so far, progress was slow and frustrating. On that same day, officials announced a $50,000 reward under the citywide crime reward program, hoping it would push someone, anyone, to come forward with info that could help identify the shooters and bring justice to the family. Detectives gathered 12 surveillance videos from nearby spots, including a major one from the Chevron gas station across the street. That footage might have caught the black sedan, maybe even the shooter himself. Forensic experts were already working around the clock, analyzing bullet casings and shell fragments to trace the gun used in the hit. The results were expected by November 5th, and everyone in the city was holding their breath, waiting to see if this evidence would finally break the case wide open. The case was now in the hands of LAPD's South Bureau Homicide Division, led by Detective Maria Gonzalez, who quickly became the face of the investigation. As of November 2nd, 2025, the case was still wide open. No suspects, no arrests, and no solid leads. Meanwhile, the tension in the streets was building like a ticking bomb. The community was restless, angry, and ready to explode with rumors and finger-pointing that made solving this murder even harder. But what really shook investigators wasn't what they found at the crime scene. It was what they saw online. As the news of Jabari's killing spread like wildfire, social media turned into a battleground. Within minutes, people were posting theories, dropping fake evidence, and dissecting every detail with the coldness of spectators watching a movie instead of a real tragedy. It was disturbing, a wave of heartless commentary that showed zero compassion for the dead. People started connecting dots that probably didn't even exist, spinning old conspiracies about Big U and Nipsey back into the spotlight. Posts, comments, and viral threads began weaving wild stories about revenge, curses, and street payback, creating a toxic digital storm that made truth almost impossible to find. And then came the ugliest part, the celebration. Within 90 minutes of the first LAPD scanner alerts hitting social media around 11:45 p.m. on Halloween night, Jabari's death wasn't being treated like a tragedy anymore. It had turned into content. People were laughing, sharing memes, and calling it karma, saying he paid the price for his father's so-called sins. What was supposed to be an active homicide case became something much darker, a digital circus. The internet turned a real-life killing into entertainment, using Jabari's death as a twisted public trial of Big U's reputation. For investigators, that kind of chaos didn't just taint the evidence, it poisoned the entire search for justice. By midnight, social media was already on fire. Thousands of people calling Jabari's death cosmic justice or street karma, convinced that the universe had just balanced the scales. On X, formerly Twitter, the madness started fast. About 2,500 posts mentioned Big U's son before the clock even struck 12. And by 6 a.m. on November 1st, that number had exploded to over 15,000. The story spread from LA to London, from hood blogs to hip-hop forums, moving across time zones like a digital wildfire. Hashtags like hashtag J Henley, hashtag Big U Henley, and hashtag Baby We shot to the top of local LA trends, cracking the top 5 in hip-hop discussions. But the most disturbing one, hashtag Nipsey Karma, took things to a whole new level. It was cruel, cold, and completely heartless, pushing the idea that Jabari's murder was some kind of divine revenge for Nipsey's death. That hashtag alone racked up over 4,000 uses within the first 48 hours, and the tone of those posts was chilling. Then came TikTok, the epicenter of chaos. The platform filled up with disturbing clips, some showing raw bystander footage of paramedics performing chest compressions on Jabari's lifeless body. These videos were filmed by random people nearby, not to help, not to call for aid, but to go viral. By noon on November 1st, those clips had already hit 3.2 million views. Proof that clout had officially replaced compassion. Even Instagram wasn't safe. Several Nipsey Hussle fan pages, accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, started reposting the footage, mixing their grief for Nipsey with captions that barely hid their satisfaction over Jabari's death. They talked about justice served, as if the murder of a 34-year-old warehouse worker, a man just living his life, could somehow balance the scales for a crime he had nothing to do with. It was one of the coldest displays of digital cruelty the hip-hop community had ever seen. A reminder that in the age of social media, tragedy doesn't stay sacred for long. 6 years after Nipsey's death, the city once again drowned in mockery and hate. Waves of venomous comments hitting harder than bullets. Strangers who had never met Jabari, never even heard his voice, suddenly felt entitled to decide if he deserved what happened to him, all because of his last name. It was heartless. People judging a man not for his actions, but for the conspiracy theories wrapped around his father's shadow. At 12:07 a.m. on November 1st, just hours after the murder, one viral post started making rounds. A short, shaky video from the crime scene with the caption, "Retaliation for Big U's alleged Nipsey setup. Street war never ends." That clip blew up instantly, pulling in thousands of likes and reposts. The comments were a mess. People piecing together made-up timelines, linking random events, and claiming to know who ordered the hit. None of it was based on facts, just wild street gossip amplified through retweets and clout chasing. Then, by 6:47 a.m., another post hit with even more venom. LA let Big U walk after killing your legend, Nipsey. Trash City. That one sentence summed up the twisted mindset spreading across social media. The belief that since Big U supposedly escaped justice for Nipsey's murder, despite never being charged, never mentioned in Eric Holder's trial, and with zero evidence linking him to the crime, then his son had to pay the price instead. People ignored every truth, every fact. They didn't care that Jabari was an innocent man, a father with a 10-year-old daughter, a working man who stayed away from gang life. None of that mattered to the digital mob. In their eyes, the bloodline was the crime, and that was enough to justify murder. By the time investigators reviewed over 8,000 social media posts made between November 1st and 2nd, the damage was done. The internet had already turned the tragedy into a twisted story of street justice where guilt ran through last names and death was seen as balance. It showed how cruel and careless the world had become, where pain was entertainment and sympathy was replaced with hashtags and hate. Out of more than 8,000 analyzed posts, the numbers were shocking. Around 62% mentioned Nipsey's name, twisting Jabari's death into some warped continuation of 2019, as if his murder was connected or even justified by something that happened 6 years earlier. Only 28% offered neutral condolences, showing basic humanity for a life lost, and a small 10% actually spoke out against the mockery and hate. But that 10% didn't stand a chance. Their compassion got drowned out by a tidal wave of digital cruelty. It was heartbreaking to watch people convince themselves that celebrating a young father's murder was somehow honoring Nipsey's legacy, as if cheering death kept the marathon going. One post, buried deep in the chaos, said it best. Don't care about Big U, but his son didn't deserve this. That rare spark of empathy stood out like a whisper in a storm, quickly buried under thousands of cruel jokes, memes, and hashtags that turned tragedy into entertainment. The internet treated Jabari's death like it was part of some twisted score being settled, not the loss of a real man with a real family. It showed how numb people had become, laughing and posting instead of mourning, as if karma and violence were things to celebrate. But a few voices tried to bring some perspective, breaking down the realities of South LA's street politics. They pointed out that this might not have been about Nipsey at all. In a world as volatile as LA's gang landscape, being born into a well-known family can be dangerous all by itself. Sometimes it's not what you did, it's who your people are. The analysis painted a chilling picture of Jabari Henley, a man trapped in a world he never asked for, carrying a name that came with weight, history, and danger. He wasn't chasing fame or drama. He was just trying to live his life. But in a city where old grudges never die, even your last name can become the reason your story ends too soon. You feel me? By the time social media platforms finally stepped in, the damage was already done. And it was ugly. The chaos had spread too fast, too far, and no amount of policy enforcement could undo the disrespect that had already flooded the internet. On November 1st, X, formerly Twitter, suspended 15 accounts for doxing, accounts that went way too far, posting Jabari's home address, workplace, and even private details about his daughter. It was beyond sick. A digital attack that showed zero boundaries or respect for the dead. Over on TikTok, things weren't any better. The platform demonetized 200 videos for graphic content, clips showing Jabari's final moments on the pavement, filmed and shared by strangers who saw a dying man as content. TikTok removed the option to profit from those videos. But here's the real kicker. The footage stayed up. It kept circulating, racking up millions of views as people reshared and remixed it for clout. Instagram tried to step in too, flagging around 50 reels under their hate speech and violence policies. They added warning labels, but they didn't take down the clips that openly mocked Jabari's death. The result? Millions still saw the posts, spreading cruelty disguised as justice across every corner of the culture. By that point, the disrespect had become unstoppable. Memes, fake tributes, and edited clips flooding the timeline. Somewhere in his cell at the Metropolitan Detention Center, Big U was getting word of it all. Not only that his son was gone, but that the internet was celebrating it. People were calling it karma, calling it closure, calling it balance, and that had to cut deeper than any sentence a judge could hand down. Even some of Nipsey's old affiliates, real ones who'd had years of tension with Big U, were trying to calm things down. They jumped online begging people to stop the madness, to show some kind of humanity. But it was too late. The wave of hate had already drowned out reason. The streets were feeding off pain, and the internet had turned tragedy into a trend. On November 1st, Black Sam, Nipsey Hussle's brother and the executor of his estate, finally spoke out through All Money Ends Mora Records Instagram page. His message hit hard. Pain multiplies pain. Honor Nip with peace, not this. It was short but powerful. A direct call out to those pretending they were honoring Nipsey by cheering for Jabari's death. Black Sam reminded everyone of what Nipsey truly stood for: peace, unity, and breaking the cycle. Before his death, Nipsey had spent his last years trying to uplift South Central, to stop the endless back and forth violence that had already taken too many lives. He wanted the hood to heal, not to keep bleeding. But even his brother's plea for peace got drowned in the noise, buried under thousands of comments from people who twisted hate into righteousness, claiming that mocking a dead man was somehow street justice. Meanwhile, the chaos spilling online started bleeding into real life. LAPD reported a 22% jump in anonymous calls to Crime Stoppers. More than 150 calls came flooding in between November 1st and 2nd. But instead of solid info, most of those calls were filled with wild rumors. People linking Jabari's murder to Nipsey revenge, old neighborhood beefs, and even elaborate theories connecting it all back to 2019. Detectives had to dig through mountains of nonsense just to find anything real. For investigators, the internet had become both a blessing and a curse. It gave them access to potential witnesses and tips, but it also poisoned the case with misinformation that led nowhere. Every hour spent chasing down a false lead meant more time wasted and more chances for the real shooters to disappear. And all of this was unfolding in a city already on edge. The broader climate in LA was tense, anger brewing, lines being drawn, and old rivalries starting to wake back up. The streets were whispering revenge, the internet was echoing lies, and somewhere in the middle of it all, a grieving father sat behind bars, watching a tragedy spiral into something even darker. By early November, tensions across Los Angeles were reaching a boiling point. Observers said you could feel the pressure in the air. Every block, every post online, every rumor on the streets adding more fuel to the fire. The whole city was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. As of November 6, 2025, there were still no arrests in Jabari Henley's murder. The killers were out there somewhere, while detectives kept pushing forward, reviewing hours of surveillance footage, running ballistic tests, and questioning anyone who might have seen or heard something that night. The LAPD Homicide Division confirmed the case was still active, still open, and very much alive. But the streets, they were restless. The whispers, the tension, the unanswered questions, it all kept South LA on edge. Jabari's story became more than just another headline. It became a reflection of how deep the pain and division in the city still run. Justice hasn't been served yet, and the streets haven't forgotten. Thanks for watching. If you found this story powerful, make sure to like, share, and drop a comment with your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the most shocking stories shaking the culture, and we'll see you in the next video.